Sunday morning. Well, what is going on in New York City? Well, a few weeks ago, we spoke to Tom DiNapoli, and the good news is he won his primary, and he's responsible for New York State. Now, today, we are speaking to the New York City Comptroller, Mark Levine, and he is working very hard. He's one smart guy, and he spoke in front of the Police Athletic League lunch a few weeks ago, and everybody there was very impressed. Well, Mark Levine, give us an update of what the heck is going on in New York City, because nobody really knows.
Oh, man, John, thank you first for having me on the show. And, boy, was it wonderful to spend an afternoon with you and the leaders of the Police Athletic League. I'm so grateful for what you're doing to help young people around the city. Boy, man, it's been a busy summer in New York City. There's so much to talk about on our budget and our economy. But I got to start, John, with news that came out just in the last couple of days about rents. Rents in Manhattan and other parts of New York City are at their all-time highest. Did you see this, John?
I saw it. It's an all-time high because I understand that there might be as many as 20, 30,000 apartments that are vacant because people can't afford to do anything with them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But first, the numbers are pretty incredible. So median rents in Manhattan, believe it or not, $5,295 per month. It's insane. And in Brooklyn, it's not much better, $4,350. And I know your listeners understand that those are rents that are out of reach, not just of low-income people, but of a nurse, of a social worker, of a firefighter. These are really outrageously high rents. And the problem is we just have a shortage of supply of homes in New York City. And you pointed to one of the reasons, which is that in rent-stabilized buildings, we have tens of thousands of apartments that are sitting vacant. And your listeners are probably shocked. Why would a landlord leave an apartment vacant? Well, unfortunately, the law is very difficult. When apartments become vacant and they need very expensive renovations, sometimes a six-figure price tag, the owners of the buildings are not able to raise their rents enough to cover the cost of that renovation. And so many of these apartments remain vacant. This has got to be fixed. We've got to activate these homes so they can go back on the market. And it can be done in a way that preserves affordability, but allows for more flexibility for landlords to be able to pay for the renovations. But in general, we have a shortage. We probably have a shortage of 500,000 apartments across New York City. And in part, it's because there's just not enough financing. And so my office is doing something about this, John. We're going to invest $4 billion of pension money in financing housing all over New York City. New construction, renovating, preserving existing buildings, and converting former vacant office buildings into homes. This is going to be like a shot of adrenaline into housing production all over New York City. I'm super excited about it.
Let me ask you a silly question. We know that what the problems with NYCHA is, the New York City Housing Authority. There's 300,000 apartments there. But the big item is like 30%, 40% of the people never pay rent. But nobody wants to make them homeless either. So what do you do with that?
Yeah, rent payment has actually gone down citywide since the pandemic. During the middle of the emergency, we had a pause on rental payments for many tenants. Understandably, people were out of work at the time. But it's been hard to get back to where we were pre-pandemic, and this has been a challenge for all kinds of housing, particularly for NYCHA. And as you say, you don't want to push people out because then they land in the homeless shelters, and we don't want that. That's a tragedy for families. So I just think we need to help coax people back into paying their rent because we do need it for the operations of NYCHA. But, I got to remind you, John, people are suffering economically because we've had a very bad job situation. Jobs are totally flat in New York, and we do need to do better and get jobs growing again so that families can pay rent and we don't have problems in NYCHA and elsewhere. And I don't know if you follow this, but job creation is basically just flat in New York. The only area where it's growing is in healthcare, specifically home healthcare aides. And it's partly because we have a lot more competition from other parts of the country, places like Texas and Florida and other states. So we've also got to up our game to get job growth going again in New York, and this is something I'm all in on.
Understood. Now, how can we induce people to build more homes when they're putting on so many restrictions? Why would anybody build a new home or build a new building in New York when all these new restrictions coming up? They want rent freezes, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how do you pay the mortgage?
Look.
How do you pay the mortgage when you have a rent freeze?
There's a lot of reasons why New York is behind on building housing. One, historically, has been our zoning's been very, very restrictive, but that was largely fixed. The Adams administration passed something called City of Yes. I'm sure you've covered it here. That's going to make it easier to build from a zoning perspective. We've talked about the financing challenge, which I'm working on with our investments, but it just costs too damn much to build in New York. We're seeing average apartment costs of $750,000 for low-end projects, well over $1 million for some projects, and it's outrageous. It is partly the fault of city government, which has so many rules and regulations and makes it very, very difficult to get approval for permits. If you want to get approval for building affordable housing in New York, it probably takes 12 to 18 months to get the paperwork done, and that's beyond getting the mortgage and getting the zoning. That's just getting the paperwork approved. We've got to do better. I think technology can maybe speed that up. I think you should get approval in 12 to 18 days, not 12 to 18 months. And in the buildings department, the same problems, just takes too long. You know what expediters are, John, where people hire staff? It's crazy. You have to hire someone just to get your paperwork through. Even the city hires expediters to get its own projects built. It's really outrageous. So we've got to clear out the bureaucracy and make it easier to build in New York City, lower the cost. That will help lower the rents long term. Supply and demand, John. You know this as a businessman.
I know that.
Yep.
And we got to solve the problem real soon, because right now, I mean, I'm saying if I'm taking the money that I'm going to spend in New York, and it's my kids' future money, I got to invest it better in the place where I'm going to get a return on investment, and that could be Florida.
Well, we don't want that to happen, and we know there's been a lot of housing development in Florida, and some of it is at New York's expense. And so we got to win that battle. We want people to grow here and invest here, and most importantly, we want housing that New Yorkers can afford, and that requires expanding the supply. We can do that, but it's going to require the kind of work we're talking about.
Well, there's another rule that says they can only build 99 apartments, because you build more than 99 apartments, you have to have all these other new restrictions, and nobody's building more than 99 apartments, even though you can build 150.
Yes. So
look into it. Mark Levine, we're out of time, but look into it. Look into it.
John. I will.
You're one smart guy, and you're one common sense guy, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Have a great one. Be well.
You.